Hi everyone, it's Grant Abbott speaking, and we're just having a chat today, not a long one, but more importantly how the legal firm that is associated with LightYear Docs and also I love SMSF, Abbott Mourly, can really help your advising business. The most important feature for me in part of this process is to ensure that not only our legal documents, but also our strategy automation. And we're going to talk about the moat a little bit later on, and also the protector, how we have legal sign off from that perspective. And more importantly, that this legal sign off enables you to do some very sophisticated strategy automation that would normally take weeks to be done at other legal firms. And effectively, you can do it pretty quickly. In fact, you can almost do it on the spot with a client, but you're not going to tell the client that. Now, in certain areas, you'll obviously be looking for further sign-off. So although the documents are signed off, with the presentation for the clients, for example, with wills and testamentary trusts, generally we find that there's a couple of ways of handling that. For example, you can prepare the wills and testamentary trusts, or we'll go through the moat itself, and then find out a little bit later on that you need to have a session with us, a Zoom session with Tony and I, where we can discuss the various documents that come out of that, such as an EPOA, an SMSF Will, and a will and testamentary trust. And with that one, we can discuss online. And effectively then the document, although you'll be doing the invoicing and then have to pay us a fee, it's $4.95 for just a single set of documents, but if it's spouses, then it's $7.95, and we can generally do that within the space of maybe 35 to 40 minutes, so it's a fairly quick process. So that's one way of doing, and then the documents that are prepared and signed off and executed are then kept. They're actually provided by Abbott Mourly, notwithstanding the fact that you've done it through our automated system, and then sits in our vault, in Tony's document vault, and then obviously in yours as well, and also for the clients, so that if something goes wrong, we always know where those documents are going to be kept. So that's one way. The other way that we'll talk about as well is the process is that we can come in to your offices. We have got fairly limited capacity, but we can work with about another 5 or 6 firms at this stage, where we can book in for 1 day a month to come into your office and do the wills and testamentary trusts and EPOAs, and I'll go through what we generally do for that. And then we book in for that, and then you can essentially be in a position we charge the client, but then we go through a 70-30 split for that. So obviously the ones we've done to date, the beauty of it is that when we go into your office, you can give us a really good background of the client, where their assets are, where their monies are, and then we can start to work on that session. And that works extremely well. And we can do up to like 5 or 6 clients a day there for you. And we've got a sheet of costs, which certainly are not exorbitant. And then on the day, we'll tell the client what the process is. And if they want to go ahead, then we go ahead. If they don't, then that's fair enough. I mean, at the end of the day, you've actually provided a great service for your clients. But the main thing is, let me just go on to the next slide. And look, I hear this all the time, and which is one of the reasons we built Abbott Mourly. Originally, we had Now Infinity Legal, but obviously with the split up of Now Infinity and certainly my backing out of that, that sort of ended up dying. And I know View Legal was with Now Infinity, but they've now moved on as well. So the problem that I've always faced with lawyers, and I'm not besmirching lawyers at all, there are some absolutely awesome lawyers around, but what I would do, okay, so Tony Skinner, how does a 70-30 split work with the new FASEA conflict of interest referral fee standards? Tony, it's actually not a referral fee. It's actually administration fee, because you'll actually be doing all of the documents and preparing the clients for us. So when we mean a 70-30 split, in fact, it should really be 2 invoices. In fact, we could probably do 2 invoices if you want to do that. And I'll go through the process and show you what it looks like for that. But look, that's a great question. In fact, I did a whole session yesterday on ethics and professionalism, and went through the 14 standards provided by FASEA in terms of ethics and professionalism. And the referral fee is a really important conflict of interest issue around ethics. So thanks for doing that. But importantly, this is a twofold process. Look at us as a part of your team. And the invoice is, again, it's for actual work that you are doing for that process and that system. It's not like, for example, that you are sending your clients to our offices, we're doing it and then giving a split. We're actually in your office, using your offices. We are sitting down and utilising all your information, going through all the work that you've prepared, and I'll show you a little bit later on, so that generally you're doing just as much work for that process. The 70-30, that's how we worked out, is that there's so much of our time put in, so much of yours. The alternative is you can actually do the reverse. If you don't want to do that, I'll show you what happens when we go around and have a look at the moat. You can do the whole preparation for it, charge the client whatever the fee is, which would have been the fee that we would charge ordinarily for a client for a will and testamentary trust. And then you just simply get it signed off by us for, as I said, the $495 or $795. And I think it's pretty important that with all this ethics and professionalism, we did a big deep dive on it, 2-hour session, that you need to draw the line and say, well, what are you doing it for? So it's just not a referral fee in terms of getting a fee for doing no work. Getting back to this, as I said before, not all lawyers are bad lawyers. Essentially, there's some really good ones, but we've all been burnt before having lawyers go over. We did a recent one from a lady in Bunbury who was fly in, fly out. She had been referred to us by Ken Race, and thank you very much for that, Ken. Again, we invoiced the client directly. There was no fee paid to Ken because he didn't want to get involved in that process. But she'd been waiting for 18 months for a will with a testamentary trust for her children. And effectively from that perspective, we found that we were able to do it within about 3 or 4 days and sort it out pretty quickly. Hard thing about it is we can do things really quickly and turn them around because of the system that we've built with LightYear Docs. So, and then, of course, you find the issues around, obviously, the self-managed superannuation funds that most lawyers simply pass the monies from the SMSF or superannuation into the estate, which then may be subject to a family provisions challenge, which is the last thing that we want. So our preference generally when we do SMSFs is that we draft our SMSF wills. So there's a passing directly out of the superannuation fund, even if it's to an adult child, directly out of the superannuation fund rather than going through the estate per se. The key thing, though, is that, look, at LightYear Docs, we built a legal system for our users, and essentially it's fully automated strategies that you've all used, and I want to look a little bit later on about the moat and also the protector. And look, we know that, again, many of you want more. We can do a really hands-off approach, absolutely super hands-off. So you prepare all the documents as you want. Alternatively, we can come in and work with you. And I should say, actually, that's a really good question, Tony. It's probably not a referral arrangement. It's more a partnership arrangement because we see ourselves as an integral part of your business. So are you there, Tony?
Oh, I'm here.
Okay, so this is, Tony, you just want to go through a bit of a background on your background and how we met, a bit about now Infinity Legal, which obviously folded, more importantly, TGA Legal, and also than where we are now and Abbott Mourly, why we rebranded and how you see it working from your side as being the head partner of Abbott Mourly.
Yeah, sure. Good morning to everyone. Thanks for joining in to our webinar this morning. Just a bit of a background between me and Grant. I met Grant back in, 2011, whilst I was working in Sydney with Hall and Chadwick at the time as a divisional tax supervisor there. And as a result of that...
Roy, sorry, Tony, Roy just said, can you speak up a little bit? I can hear you, but yep, that's better.
Okay, and I met Grant back in 2011 whilst I was working with Hall and Chadwick at the time. And as a result of that, we established a fairly good relationship with Grant. And what we decided to do back then when Grant had Now Infinity, we decided to incorporate a legal practice to service the Now Infinity clients in the platform, which worked out very, very well at the time. So we decided to set up Now Infinity Legal. And that was to cater for basically the accountants, the financial planners, sign off on all the legal documents, up until around about 2016, when, like Grant said, they decided to move forward. And then what happened after that, because we had a restrictive covenant on it, we had to change the name from Now Infinity Legal to TGA Legal, and that's how TGA Legal came in, basically. And whilst Grant at the time had his restrictions on, and myself, I was working away until I don't know, probably about a year and a half later, we decided to hook up again, and then whilst he was doing that, he was writing his book, the SMSF Guru's Guide, which I found quite fascinating. And then we decided basically to change the name from TGA Legal to Abbott Mourly, and where it is today.
Which is perfect. I mean, we're pretty boutique, and we've got offices in Queensland or in Brisbane,
Queensland, Sydney and Melbourne. The head office is in Melbourne, obviously, because I reside in Melbourne. But we've got an office in Sydney, in York Street, and also in Brisbane. And
it's important from that perspective is that Tony's done quite a detailed letter on how doing the documents on the platform, the strategies on the platform, effectively are a form-filling exercise. And importantly, there's a couple of things about our platform that are fairly important. From our platform, I'm going to show you what the back end looks like, if you don't mind, just so I can cover a couple of issues there for you. So if I look at, if we go in and have a look, this is our back end of our platform. Oops, so that's like let me just go here. So this is what we call our hub. And what that's doing now is going into our hub. And you can see here, these are all the documents that are being done on our system. And we can handle up to, like 10,000 documents an hour quite easily. All of these documents, so someone did an investment strategy for a fund a minute ago. I can go in and have a look at them. But you can see they're all coded with separate names, except ones that we have done ourselves and identified. So Emmanuel's our coder. And we do that from a privacy perspective. So we don't know. This is an actual legal system that essentially we're using. So when I do this, if I have a look at Emmanuel, who's our developer, he's done an interview and I can download the document as a docx. So that means just it's a Word doc. I can go in, fiddle with it. And quite often when we're doing letters of advice or specific things, I'll use the Word version there for us. Whereas when we go in and have a look at the when we have a look at our system here, let's go to the estate planning here. I'll look at the moat there. You can see I can start because I'm LY strategist. I'll use grant test. Pick the green always. Start that. And up comes the moat. Now, when I complete this document, in fact, if I go in and have a look at my vault, I'll go in one I did yesterday. So I'll just go and have a look here. So this is one I did yesterday, mortgage deed. I can actually download it. But notice when I download it, it comes up as a PDF. So I did a mortgage deed yesterday just as a sample. The main thing there is it has no logo in there. We can easily put the Abbott Mourly logo in there if I want. The key thing though is there's only certain fields that you can complete. So if I go back into here, I press the relaunch button, what will happen here is it takes me back into the interview form. You can see here I haven't put a logo where it says logo tag. So if I went AM001, that puts in the Abbott Mourly logo, which is useful if you want to do that, as opposed to you can put in your white labeling, and I'll cover that very shortly. But you can see here, here's all the fields that we've put in here. And there's only certain fields that we can put in. So you can't necessarily change the documents. But of course, when we're doing a mortgage here, you can put here is we're taking security over all my personal assets. So when I do that and then I go through the finish, what will pop up there is effectively the new document. But again, the new document is in a PDF format. So I'll go and have a look. Just shows you can go back and relaunch. See how the logo's popped up there? I've got the mortgage deed, and there's only this data that can actually be changed. This is the key page here. So do you want to talk about that, Tony, which is really, this is where the Abbott Mourly sign-off is?
Yeah, with every document that's been prepared by Abbott Mourly, it's been signed off by Abbott Mourly. So even though, although the users are inserting the field in the collection of data, inserting that data into the documents, the PI at the end of the day is shifted to Abbott Mourly because of the sign-off situation. But if you want any customized documents or any sign-off or letters of advice, yeah, more than happy to assist with that also. But the sign-off is by Abbott and Mourly, and not by the users of the platform.
So importantly from that, you can see here, when you get a document like this, if there's like this little amount here, you can see this is code. It means that inside the document, I actually haven't completed that particular area. So you go back, relaunch, etc. Here you can see here the security that I wrote. So that actually pops up here. We've got the amounts. Again, you can see here I haven't completed that particular area, but I've got 7 years. So there's certain areas that when we put it in the interview field, it pops up in the document itself. So you can't go in and, for example, you can't go in and, let's say we want to get rid of this, I'm typing, and I can't do anything because it's a PDF there. Now, of course, the sign-off only goes to the documents that are actually prepared on the system. If you then take the PDF down and use like an Adobe PDF converter or whatever and change the documents, that's where obviously the sign-off starts to lapse. We've been very careful about ensuring that it fits within the needs of the system. So that's essentially again the sign-off. If you like to get that letter, just contact Tony. It's probably not a bad idea. I'll send this I'll send this recording out also with Tony's details, so you can always get in contact with Tony if you'd like to do any work. Now, we've talked about before is, again, we can use Abbott Mourly for sign-off. If you feel, and look, I understand, I mean, Tony Skinner raised a really good issue. There's some instances where, for example, accountants, and again, I went through this ethics and professionalism yesterday and had a look at where the line was drawn for accountants, etc. Feel free that if you want to get a letter of advice rather than a statement of advice, again, we will be offering a statement of advice service in LightYear Docs platform in the first quarter of the next financial year. With that one, if you don't want to do that, if you've only got if you're an accountant without any licensing, you can always pass it through us as Abbott Mourly, because as lawyers we are exempt from the Corporations Act. So it can run from, as we went through before, a simple Zoom meeting with a client or a face-to-face client meeting with you in attendance. Do you want to go through the stamping, Tony? Because I know this is a new thing that you've been working on, so that if you want to go through what it is, the process, and you've already completed a few of these, and particularly electronic stamping and how they go through that.
Yeah. With the stamping now, we'll offer an additional service. We're registered in currently in Victoria and New South Wales, and I'm just waiting approval from Western Australia and South Australia. I thought I'd pick out the capital cities to do this stuff. But with QLD, Queensland, I don't think there's you don't need to stamp the deeds over there unless you're buying personal property, basically within the trust or whatever. But if you're going to do that, just let us know, and we can direct you in the right direction in that regard.
For a conveyancer.
Yeah. So with the stamping process in Victoria and in New South Wales is all you got to do is send through a copy of the deed once you set it up.
Tony, Graham's just saying, can you speak up again?
Yep. Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, just get close to the microphone.
Yeah, so once you set up any type of deed, or whether it's a unit trust or a discretionary trust or whatever, all you got to do is send that deed across to me, if you wish, and I can upload it up on the system electronically and send it through to the SOR, whether it's in Victoria or New South Wales, and pay the fee there. And they will give me confirmation of a receipt, basically, that the deed has been stamped, and I can just send that out directly to you guys. So,
and we've got a question. We've got a question here from Cush, and I know you've actually looked at this before, but the stamping, for example, for LRBA deeds.
LRBA.
The limited recourse borrowing in New South Wales, like the concessional duty and stuff like that. So you've got the ability to stamp that as well.
Yeah, we've got the ability to stamp the deeds in New South Wales and in Victoria for now, until we get approval from Western Australia and South Australia at this stage.
Okay, so again, all of that process. So just to confirm, so that if you do a document on our platform, say it's one of the LRBA packs, and it has gone through the legal firm, it's all signed off. So if that's the case and it needs stamping, then you need to, obviously, they'll execute it and send it to you, Tony, and then what happens then?
And then what happens is you pay the, if it's in Victoria, of course, you pay the 200 duty fee. Or if it's in New South, it's 500. Plus, if you want a copy, it's $10 thereafter. And also, just for our attendances, to stamp the deed and upload it and etc. And it'll be a cost of 150 plus GST on that from our end.
Okay,
so if you wish to utilise that aspect of it, more than happy to assist.
So again, I'll send out some details around Tony so that you can just email him or contact him directly. I'll give you his phone number. So he keeps on top of all matters. We also get a lot of requests for doing contracts around specific things, whether it's a sale of a business. We've done quite a few of those. We've done some pretty big property developments, down in Victoria. We've done ones up to like $500 million, so that we're pretty strong on that, and we're not there to gouge. In fact, we probably undercharge for some that we should probably, like our competitors will probably charge, to give you an idea of like a $50 million project, our competitors would probably charge around about $90,000 to $100,000 for the legals. I think Tony, the recent one that we worked on, we effectively only charged about $25,000, and that was even hard to get that out of the client. Mind you, they probably only saved about $5 million in tax. So with that one, Ken, I'll come around when we have a look at the protector on that one. So look, if there's any matter that you need, look, we're quite happy, particularly if it's around the documentation side as well. Quite a lot of them. We did a fairly good one for a share sale and an option agreement. We do lots of deed rectifications, variations. So stuff that may not be in the platform, Tony and I can turn it around pretty quickly there for you. And again, we'll just invoice you for the fee, and then basically we're off and running. Now, if you want to book time for some client meetings, then I'm going to show you what we did. So do you want to just talk about the process we went through just recently, Tony, with Madden? So I'm sure Dr. Madden doesn't mind, because he's obviously very in tune with his clients as well, and wanted to go through that process and saw some great value in that process for his clients. So what we did there the other day.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting stuff, I must say. What we did was Dr. Madden actually set up 4 appointments for us. We started at 8 a.m. in the morning, and we continued right through until about 1 or 2 in the afternoon. And what the process was there, actually, client come in, would get get the file ready, get a statement of his assets and liabilities, or hers, and then run through the process basically of what they actually wanted to do, whether they wanted to build a will or a testamentary trust or an EPOA or a protector, etc., etc. So we went through the tick of the box, and what had happened after that, we started preparing in accordance with the client's instructions, of course. We got onto the system pretty much straight away, because we both had our laptops there. So I started drafting the will there and then for the client, basically.
And really, what we used, I started off, and I'll just poke this up. I started off like our first client, and it was so dumb of me, and I am dumb sometimes. So we started off going through here, because the clients came in, and then we found what the client wanted enduring power of attorney. So everyone needs an enduring power of attorney updated to get, obviously, to get your superannuation, if you've got a superannuation trust. And Maddens have been very good. They have family trusts, they had SMSFs, and obviously the clients had wills and testamentary trusts. So I started building the enduring power of attorney, and I built that for the first one. So we had a bit of space between clients. Then they were in a self-managed super fund. So then I started building the SMSF Will, and then I built the last will and testament. So I started going through those 3, and I was having a chat with Tony, and we'd been provided a lot of information from Lisa Morgan at Madden's, and she did an absolutely brilliant job showing where all the assets were and all of that. So there was a true combined effort. As I said, it's a partnership, not a referral. And then dopey me, I went and had a look at this, and I thought, oh my God, why am I doing that when I could be using the moat, which is what we did originally. So here I've just done a demo for you, and I want to show you what happens. And you put we put the AM001 logo in there because then it's signed off by Abbott Mourly and Tony. The key thing for us is to actually build in all the common parties. So that would be, for example, the person who's going to be the testator or the person we're dealing with, includes all their children, their spouse, the executors, would also include your firm as well as part of the process. So this is information that all the financials and also this sort of information we need in order to expedite and speed everything up. If you can provide all that information to us either prior or really just before the client comes in, so we get a really good snapshot of what's going on. And we originally had slotted an hour and a half for each meeting, but because of the information and the wealth of information that Lisa Morgan had prepared, we were able to get straight to things. So she sat in on the meetings with us and covered any taxation issues. And then what we did is we moved straight on from there into preparing. So we met with the client. It was quite obvious. We go down and have a look at the documents. So this is where it covers. So you can see here, we've got the enduring power of attorney. So we could do one for Victoria. For the clients, we found, it's quite interesting. So we went through the SMSF Will. We needed to do that for the clients. And then we went down to do the last will and testament. So remember how I went and had a look at the other 3 particular issues where I had to go and do 3 other documents. I don't need to do that because here I can actually go through the process really quickly. Look, there's plenty of videos on the moat sitting in the system, but you can do this just as easily as me, I'm telling you. And then just because the people were already in a SMSF, you could actually set up a SMSF if we wanted. So what we did is they all had companies. So we did a constitution upgrade and an upgrade of the SMSF deed to a leading member as well. Now those ones we didn't tell the client about, so that wasn't the process, but we just did that gratis because the information just all flows through this sort of system. So what I might do is I might actually just go through, if you don't mind, I'll just go through quickly just to show you how quickly it can go. So if I did this for you, if you've seen it before, please, again, so just humour me here, because what we did is here, we're effectively building the CRM, and we get this information from yourself. You get it from the support centre. So if I go and have a look, what the Madden did very well was went on support centre. We've got here on the advice and toolkits, and then that will and testamentary trust letter was then sent out to the client. So obviously you've got that one there, and that's got a bit of a blurb there sending out to the client. So when the clients came in, they had a good understanding of what was going on, the costings, etc. And then obviously this was the data capture. So that was then compiled, checked back to the actual system for the client, and then effectively we can then start to build these common parties. So I've got the main one is obviously John Smith. I'm putting in his spouse now. So Sally Smith, she's at the same address. I just want to show you how quickly it goes into for that. So again, same address, Sydney. We'll be looking at doing that. We are going to integrate with BGL. We are integrating with CAS 360. I'll look at the son now, Matthew. And then with that one, I'll just do it. He's living in a different place. And also class. So a lot of this sort of information and ultimately Xero, you'll be able to get this information straight out and just ping it in there, which will make it even easier. So I'm going to add another. We're going to add the sister of Matthew and the daughter. So 50 Worley Street, Melbourne, and we've got Melbourne, it's Victoria. Sorry about that for Melburnians. I know you've got a big holiday coming up. 3,000, adding another. As you can see, once I've done this, and this is an important point. In fact, if you want to, you can actually go through and do this for your clients, and we can come in and run over the top of it. So we'll put Ben Smith. So this is the grandchild. Then we can go through, and he's living with his dad, Smith Street. We can then put, again, it's in Sydney, New South Wales, 2,000. But I think you get the gist out of it. So once we do the common parties, then I do an enduring power of attorney. And I've chosen, if I go back, remember I chose here Victoria, but I've worked out, well, it's not Victoria, it's New South Wales. So I go back and I change that. So then I go, my enduring power of attorney, my principal. So that's pretty obvious. That is going to be John Smith. See how it just pre-fills it? It's just like magic. Now, you don't need to fill in this date here. You wait until sign-off occurs. So if you want to do all these documents yourself and really take the lion's share of the fees, then what I would suggest you do all of these documents, and then we have a Zoom between Tony and myself and your clients along with you. You've sent us through these documents, and then what we do is on the date of that, you'll then complete, you'll relaunch the document, remember, and then that will pop in there. Now, the attorney, we're going to have a look at an individual, and so what we're going to do is Sally is the attorney, but we might add another. So it's going to be a joint, and so it's actually Sally and Matthew there. So we've got two attorneys. Now, if Sally and Matthew aren't there, then what we're going to do is we're going to make Marie. So if neither of those guys can do it, then Marie is the substitute attorney. And I could put Ben in, but Ben's only 15, so it doesn't make sense. So you can see this CRM, this common party makes things so much easier. Then we go down to the power of attorney. So are they going to act on behalf of the superannuation fund? Absolutely. Do anything both personal and financial? Yes, it's going to depend on what state you are, but this is a great one for New South Wales. So when will the power of attorney commence? Well, because we're picking up superannuation, we want to do upon signing of the document. Does the principal want to revoke previous attorneys? Yes. Now here, this only applies to New South Wales only. You do need to have a solicitor to sign off the enduring power of attorney. But remember, if you're going through this process, it doesn't matter. So you can either use a local solicitor. The problem about using a local solicitor is that generally they're going to want to do their own EPOA. So the attorney should act jointly and severally if you want, and then you can put all terms and conditions if you wanted to in there as well, and you also can put limitations if you want. We then go into the SMSF, so we've got the Smith family SMSF, and then, as I said before, we go through trustee with a company. Ideally, what I would do is I go back here and I put in add another, and I put in a company, and I put Smith nominees, and we've got our ACM there. And then we've got the address 5 Smith. Oh, sorry about that. Smith Street, Sydney, New South Wales, 2,000. How many directors is the company? So let's go. We've got 3 because there's 3 of them that are party. We've got Dad, who's John Smith. We go tab, and then we've got Sally Smith, and then we've got the son, Matthew Smith. So they're all going to sign, so effectively go through there. So that's the common party we've got. And then what I do is you can now see that that's popped up. So when I go back into my SMSF, I have to put in the trustees, and then I select the party, and bingo, bango, bongo, and I've effectively got that. Company, so that's my SMSF. So the company, the constitution upgrade, special purpose, absolutely I've got there, select the party. So we're going to upgrade the system. So I've just upgraded that. We need to have the meeting of the member. So, and the members here are essentially shareholders. So we've only got John Smith and Sally Smith as shareholders. John's going to be the chairman. And then we go down to who's the leading member, because remember, going to leading member, it's going to be John first. Now, if John's not around, who's going to be the next leading member? So I put that in there and we'll make that Matthew. Again, these are just subject to discussion. So you can prepare it all in draft, give it to the client and go through. So we're going to upgrade the deed, make it in New South Wales. When was the deed originally established? So let's say 0104 to 012. What date was it? Oh, sorry, no, sorry, this is the wrong one. So I'll take that out. See, as you can see, you can change it pretty quickly. We don't know what the date is going to. Again, they'll sign off. Has it been varied in the past? No. Then we go down here, the deed of variation. What clause is it? We go and have a look. Do we need someone else to sign off? No. And then we go through the SMSF will. So we go through who's the member. Well, again, it's John Smith, and we will be able to do doubles. Do they want to revoke earlier? Yes. Does the member want reversionary pensions? Yes. Do they want the executor to take appointment? Because that flows in from the EPOA and executors. Do they want death benefit payments? Yes. Do they want a professional over you? So on and so forth. So I think you get the drill. It's taken me, 5 or 10 minutes to do that. If I've got the common parties here, so the first one, select the party. So the death benefit payment, I'd go Sally. What's her relationship? Spouse. And then also Sousey spouse. And then we can say 50% of my superannuation interest. Now, if she's not alive, then it goes to Matthew and Marie equally. And remember, and if they're not alive, then it goes into a bloodline trust if you want to do that. So you can start to see, and then we go down to the wills and testamentary trust. But the main thing is, the stuff I was doing and chasing around by doing this, then that, I could actually do all through this moat really quickly. And you can see that we can effectively do all the documents for your clients within the space of maybe 30 minutes to 40 minutes, as you can. So the alternative is, it's up to you. A lot of people don't, we've met a couple who don't have the time to do all this, which I think is crazy, because I think it's awesome to be able to do all this. But we can come in the office, you give us all the information, help us out, and then effectively we can do this and get it back to we send it back to you within a couple of days. You then liaise with the clients, finalise it, and then Tony comes in and we do a sign-off ceremony if we come to your office. So that's the way of doing it. Or alternatively, you can prepare all of this in a draft, send it out to your clients, and then bang, you're basically off and running. So it's a pretty exciting process. But what we've done here is not only have we done the enduring power of attorney, we've also thrown in a constitution upgrade and a deed upgrade. We've done an SMSF will, and now we go on and do obviously a will and testamentary trust. And the cost of that sort of package from our end, I think we charged for 2 the other day was around about $4,000, because we did all of that stuff together. So we've got a set fee schedule. But alternatively, you could do it yourself and you'd be off and running from that one. So Ken, thank you. We've got a good question from Ken, is what's the difference between bloodline and lineage? So for example, if I have a look at, the best one is obviously Queen Elizabeth, her lineage would obviously be Charles, Andrew and Edward, and their children underneath that. So they're all our lineage. But her bloodline would include her sister, Princess Margaret, and also all of her children. So anyone who's got your DNA is part of your bloodline, whereas lineage is a way down. So we've got here, can you publish your fee scale? That's from Gordon Black. This is one we did, I think, Tony, I'm not sure if we've got it from here. Let me just see if Tony fee. I'll just give you an example. Hopefully it'll pop up. If not, what I'll do is I will send out the fee schedule. Again, so this is one that we did for Maddens, and it would be prepared for you. So I'm sure they don't mind here. This is the typical fee split. You can see here, for uncomplicated will, $795, $1,150 for two there. If you've got testamentary trust, $1,850 or $2,600. Enduring power of attorney, $275. I will send all of this out as well. Appointment of medical treatment decision maker, SMSF Will, $795 or $1,150 there. And then what I can do is, if you want, I'll put the, not the splits, but your share out of facilitating the process. Remember, you'll be the ones who are actually dealing with your clients. Now, alternatively, you can also use these splits if you wanted to do it yourself. So this is actually pretty stock standard. Would you agree with that, Tony? It's pretty stock standard in the industry, these sort of costs.
Yeah.
In fact, it's probably cheaper than typically you'd find.
Yeah, they're pretty typical costs at the end of the day. Yeah, correct.
So effectively, with that one, you can go through this process yourself. I'm not sure if you guys ever use this. I could show you the document preview here, and then that will generate all of that. So it's a good way to have a look at where you're going on the way through the system. And you can see it's just taking a while because there's a lot of documents that are actually produced there. So this looks ugly because it's just a preview compared to the original. But you've got your enduring power of attorney there for New South Wales. Then you've got your constitution upgrade. You've then got obviously the new company, which is a leading member company. You then go into a new, where have I got it? You've got the new SMSF there with a PDS set of rules. Then we go into the SMSF Will after this. And let me get there. Sorry, so I don't want to take so long. Sorry about this. And then we go into the SMSF Will, which would then go through. You can see I've done a lot of those ones. We had a look. Let's just go through all the stuff. And you can see there we've got the Smith family precedents. These are all the ones that I just chose. 50% of my super interest, Sally Smith. If she's not alive, it goes to lineage and bloodline. So you can see I've just done all of that. Now I haven't got to wills and testamentary trust, but that's pretty easy as well. And new mode will actually have a choice of either doing a simple will or a will with testamentary trust, which will then sort of fold into this fee schedule that we were looking at there. Again, apologies to Madden, but I just wanted to show you a real life case study how things are effectively going. So that's essentially where we sort of fit in. And I just wanted to spend the last couple of minutes, which I think, while I set it up, do you want to just talk about, so that's the will and testamentary trust. As it is, it's a lot of intelligence has been built into that system, which makes it very easy for you to complete that whole suite of documents. The other one I wanted to go and have a look at, and if you want to have a chat, Tony, just about the protector, because I know it's something that's pretty dear to your heart, and look, you've been talking it up quite a lot. If you just want to go through the process there.
Yeah, so the process with the protector is basically an asset protection mechanism, which protects the
equity. Talk up a little bit, mate.
Yep, it's just it's an asset protection mechanism document which protects the value of your assets or the equity, in your, for example, in your personal home, from any possible attacks from, any future creditors, I guess. So Grant will run through basically how the setup is on the protector and the various documents that need to come into play in order for it to work.
It's not a bad one. In fact, I would say, look, out of everything, it's worthwhile just being on one of our subscribers or one of our licensees simply for this one, because all of us, it doesn't matter whatever you've done, this is the ultimate asset protection mechanism, because we've all done the right thing by having assets in our trusts, our family trusts. Our SMSFs are likewise also protected from the trustee bankruptcy. Now, what we need to do is also ensure that there's protection there in the event from a family provisions claim. Obviously, if we've got assets that are sitting in our estate, effectively they can be subject to family provisions claim. So I've set up one common party. I'm not going to go through. I just want to go through the documents. So the process here is, do you want to establish a trust? So what we can do here is, this is all encompassing. So you can set up a trust, or you can set up with a corporate trustee. And when we do that, you're going to find it's a leading member discretionary trust. So the sole purpose of this is to hold the equity you have outside of your other structures in your own name. For example, in a house, in a car, basically in anything which is available. Ken, at this stage, I haven't got rolling year to year, as we got an increase in equity that it goes up, but I am thinking my way through that. And certainly in the next week or two, I'll be running a solution on that one for you. And again, for the deeds you've got here, they can all now be stamped by Tony at Abbott Mourly. So when we go down there, the few key things we've got, of course, is to make sure, Tim Munro, thank you, Tim, and he's a great person of that. He's saying, I hope you don't mind, Tim, but he had 2 clients sign up for this during the week. They love it. Everyone loves it. He's saying we're charging them $3,000 for the company and trust and $4,000 to $6,000 for the protector. And really the only cost, because Tim's a licensee, the only cost is obviously going to be the company. So we want to do the leading member trust and also the company. Tim's the accountant, so obviously you do a solvency certificate that the client is solvent in that regard. If you're not an accountant, then obviously just get that from the accountant. Then what happens is there's a deed of gift. So we work out the quantum of the equity sitting outside. So let's say it's $1 million. That's then gifted in, obviously, to the bloodline trust, but we don't gift the shares and the equity we have in the home. We don't gift the home in, otherwise that will result in CGT and stamp duty. But what we do is we gift by way of a promissory note. And then there's a loan agreement going back, personal guarantee and mortgage deed. And you can see, once I do the common parties, I can rip through this stuff really easily. Now, I haven't gone through the common parties because I haven't set this up, but if I had one already set up, then I'd be fantastic. So again, this to me is a next wave. If we have a look, it takes, and I'm sure Tim would vouch for that, it takes no more than maybe 15 minutes to set up this whole process. So the return on your time, and I know many of you don't have time, but the matter of getting this in and getting it done quickly is the power, and I can attest to the power, having been caught out on the moat myself, that instead of going from one to another, and can you imagine, can you imagine trying to do all of those? Let's say you went to LightYear Docs or whatever and try to do all those. One, you haven't got a lot of that information. One, it's going to take you weeks, ages to do it. If you went to a lawyer, it's going to cost an absolute fortune, but you can do that really quickly on the system. And I've actually got a new one coming up, which I call the Moat and Castle. So that will also include a variations to your family trusts. So it can convert discretionary trusts into leading member discretionary trusts. And there's a whole lot of other stuff around, so that we can effectively use these systems as almost a one-stop shop for our clients. Now, all of this again has been signed off by Abbott Mourly, and again, we're there. Particularly if you're going to do this process, you would say here, doing it in-house, which you can do. If you want to jump online, and do you want to go through the process, Tony, about if they want to book a Zoom meeting with you? Obviously, they contact you at Anamourlis at Abbott Mourly.
Abbott Mourly, yeah. So if you want to go through the process and do a Zoom, in particular to run through the documents, have a bit of a discussion about the documents, see if there's any other questions that that may throw up during the course of the conversation. We can set up a Zoom, 30, 45 minute Zoom, so we can go through it. And then we can get a sign off basically in relation to those documents, which will obviously protect you guys.
So with that one, I know we've done it before, is that so we go through all the documents on screen. We can go through all of that. So we do this Zoom. It's recorded, and the beautiful thing about the recording is it's then available for the client. So the client can't come back later on, or if it's subject to a family provisions claim, can't say that we didn't say that or do that. So it's actually, we're explaining the whole process. It's all recorded. It's recorded to the cloud, to the Zoom cloud. So anyone with that link can have access. And definitely I would be giving that link to the executor. From that perspective is that Tony will watch them sign those documents. Wet signatures are preferred. Just that way it makes it a lot easier. And then they send copies to you, don't they, Tony?
Yeah, exactly. So once the process has been executed, and then all you got to do is basically just send me a copy of the complete documents to the office, and we will store those in our vault basically for just in case that they go missing somewhere, and we've got a copy anyway, so it'll make things much easier to retrieve.
Look, from my perspective, this is so exciting. I mean, you can go to any other doc provider, but what we're doing here is we're building full-blown value-added strategies, and it's well and truly like the asset protector. What's that got to do with self-managed super funds? Nothing. We've got all of this so that particularly this here, there's as you've heard me say before, there's only, we're covering SMSFs in here as part of it, but in the scope of things, there's only what, $300 billion of SMSF monies, which is great. It's going to pass in the next 15 to 20 years. But there's $3 trillion sitting outside. So for me, the hottest product, and I know I have to thank Tim for alerting me to this, is the hottest product for me is that asset protector, because we all need one personally, and there's so many clients need it as well. And particularly we've found from our guys, our good mates down at Holt & Baker, that where you've got people who have been divorced before, and they don't necessarily want their second or third wife to know about what's going on. The protector is that killer document in our suite. And again, I'd hearken back to what Tim was saying. But certainly, next week, hopefully I'll see you at the investment strategy breakfast. If not, we will be coming out in May and going through all of these new documents, going through costing, suites. In the meantime, if you need to contact us, please again contact Tony. I will actually render this and get the video out to you ASAP so that you can have a look at it. And we love helping you and helping your business. And look at us not as a referral partner. We're not there. We are a definite partner in your business. We work side by side, and you can always bounce ideas off either myself or alternatively Tony, and we can do a lot better job for our clients. It's all within the parameters of the Legal Professions Act, and really at the end of the day, we can do amazing work in such short periods of time that our return on our investment compared to what we'd be doing in terms of compliance is great. For the planners out there, Tony, a lot of this stuff is not required to be licensed. If you have a look at the protector, no licensing requirement at all. So it's a good adjunct and sits outside for SIA. So there's some really good opportunities there. Anyway, Tony, thanks for coming along. And we're going to have to get you a special microphone so you can blast that voice. You're going to have to get...
I'll go down to Officeworks and go and pick one up.
No, if you go to JB Hi-Fi and go and get a Rode, they've got some awesome microphones. And also for those of you doing Zooms with your clients, make sure you get a really good microphone because it does make a difference. Anyway, it's Grant Abbott and Tony and Willis signing off and looking forward to helping you grow your business.
Bye-bye.